All right. Someone sent me this one and it had a juicy title. It said, "After David Dorn, I'm done trying to empathize with anyone."
My destination is to express to you how I feel about all of what's happening about these so-called protests, which ain't nothing but riots.
All right. I'm just going to stop it there. They're not nothing but riots. Majority of the protests are just peaceful protests. Objectively speaking, that's just the truth. So
they've only contributed to death, destruction, chaos, and just overall anarchy.
That's not true. Policymakers have already put forth some bill for police reform. They're already proposing different things. So the idea that they brought nothing good is also objectively false. I'm going to just say not what my opinion is, because he's entitled to feel how he wants to feel about these things. And also, good, unless you think police reform is bad, then maybe you have an argument there. But to say that they haven't accomplished anything, that would be inaccurate.
First things first, I have zero empathy for any looters, anybody that's engaging in violence, none of that.
I agree with you on that.
But that's not like you're talking like it's everybody that's at the riot. Like most people didn't engage in that.
I didn't have any from the beginning. I did not have any before this thing happened, while it's happening, or right now. Zero. If you're a looter, shooter, or whatnot.
Looters, the shooters, the brigands, the collar, the greens, beans, wings.
Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, rams, hogs, dogs, chicken, turkeys, rats. You name it!
But number two, there was a little bit of empathy there for peaceful protesters. And when I say little bit, I do mean little bit. I'm talking about out of 100%, maybe 2%.
He's from the South. He's from the South. A little bit of empathy.
This man really said 2%. I'm not at you. When you have as much empathy for protesters as you do for like your milk.
3.25? Oh, that's too much, sir.
Not even 4% milk?
That is too much.
Not even 4% milk?
That is too much, sir.
Well, let's keep
that
going.
is cream. I'm not about that cream.
After what I've seen over the past few days, that 2% is gone. You have more black people that have been shot, killed during these so-called protests than were actually killed in the incident we're talking about, which is George Floyd. That was the original purpose, right? Because everybody's protesting and carrying on because of the death of George Floyd.
No. So that's not exactly accurate. People are protesting policing in general and the way it's done. They're not just mad about George Floyd. They're mad about the system behind it. Do you understand? So to you to sit there and say they're protesting just that or because that, no. And they've made that pretty clear, or else they wouldn't be fighting for police reform. This is not just about making sure that there's a new policy that says no knees on people's necks. And this is not just about people dying at the hands of police officers. This is also about bad DAs. This is also about, disparities in sentencing, even when you account for prior convictions, right? So if you limit it to just when people get killed, then you're going to have a problem. Because I can pull up stories for you of police departments that would frame black men on purpose in order to keep their conviction very high, So if you sit here and you say it's just about how many people died, therefore, because more people have died during this protest, it's unjust.
Floyd?
No,
It's not that.
I can make that same argument for 9/11. More people died at war in Iraq and in Afghanistan than people died in 9/11. Does that mean that the whole war is invalidated? That's not a good comparison. You can't look at it that way.
Okay, that was the original purpose because of one person that died, who, by the way, was not a model citizen at all. You're talking about a dope fiend, a guy that was on...
That's irrelevant. His priors, his other issues, while real and while reflecting on his character, does not mean he deserves or doesn't deserve to die. Justice is justice. It should be blind. That's why I think why she has a does she have a blindfold on?
Yes,
right. So when you sit there and you say his character doesn't even deserve all this, then essentially what you're saying is that only people who are good people deserve justice. And I disagree with that notion. It's blind or it's not.
The main thing that set me off and really affected me personally was the death of 77-year-old David Dorn. He was a retired police captain out there in St. Louis who responded to a burglary call at a pawn shop. So he's out there trying to protect the community, trying to protect businesses, and what happens? Not only does he get shot and killed right outside the pawn shop, it also is streamed on Facebook Live.
Okay, let's just start off with this. I think any protester and most protesters would agree with you that they want justice for David Dorn, right? So nobody's sitting here, don't prosecute the rioters. Nobody's sitting here, don't prosecute the looters who steal from people or anybody who murders. Like, no one's going to sit here and say this is okay. And I don't think anybody that I know of really has been saying that. And everyone agrees, get justice for him. If the police find the killer, I doubt you're going to see a whole bunch of people protesting, being like, yo, don't charge the killers. If nobody would say that.
There's going to be nobody at that protest.
My granddad was 74 when he died, and I know how much I looked up to him. He was like my idol. 77 years old, shot, killed after 38 years in law enforcement. This man had 5 kids and 10 grandkids.
I don't care what he did in his life. I don't care if he was a 10-time criminal. I don't care if he was a saint. He didn't deserve to die.
If we don't care about what the life of George Floyd, well, we're not going to care about the life of that man that died. He died in a way that was atrocious, and that's what matters.
This should have no bearing on whether or not he deserves justice. It has to be blind.
How many kids he had, or how many grandkids he had. It's not about that. If we don't look at one, we're not going to look at the other.
It's unjust. Period.
That's it. Period.
So imagine, you go to your pop house for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever, and now that's gone. All because of what? You win a flat screen TV from a pawn shop? Is that what you think that his life was worth? If that is how you express that Black Lives Matter, I don't understand how that makes any sense.
No one's doing that. No one's trying to express that idea. And no one thinks this is right. No one's going to Chicago and be like, oh, this gun violence is great. Black Lives Matter. No one's saying that. So I feel like this is a poor argument.
A man in Oakland, Patrick Underhill, 53 years old, he was a protective services officer for the federal government. He was shot, killed out there in Oakland trying to keep the peace, trying to make sure everybody was good and safe, just doing his job. Okay, where's the Black Lives Matter protest for Patrick Underhill, David Dorn, or anybody else?
All right, this is called a whataboutism, all right? Oh, you guys are protesting this? What about that?
You about Black Lives Matter? What about the Black lives in Africa that are suffering from all sorts of disease and famine? Huh? What about them? You don't protect.
Fighting against one injustice doesn't mean that you don't care about others. That's all I'm going to say.
You're really linking things that are not necessarily linked. Okay? Somebody died because of a protest, then therefore it's Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? Therefore it's exactly that. Yeah. It was a protest organized by Black, so therefore he killed, it's Black Lives Matter that killed him. It's a stretch. I hope it's your reach. I hope you stretched before you did that reach. Because that is a whole reach.
What you're seeing right now on a national stage, the 77-year-old man that got shot, killed, the young girl that got shot, killed, people that are getting beat up, assaulted, people that are getting guns pulled on them, black folks getting guns pulled on them, black folks getting their businesses robbed and looted and burned and everything else.
I don't think anybody's going to argue with you that inner city crime is not a problem. We all agree. And if someone shoots up a school as a black dude, right, people want him charged. Go to jail. No one's, and normally, you know what? People who get caught, perpetuating violence against someone else, they go to jail. The problem is that police officers get away with sometimes murder, sometimes false imprisonment, sometimes planting evidence, like in a previous video that we showed you. How is it that if I am caught with drugs, there's a huge problem, but police officers can plant drugs on me, it be on camera, and they're still on the police force? What people are protesting right now is a system of inequality. They're protesting the fact that police officers and governmental agencies have special privileges but are not held to the same laws and standards as everyone else. And they use that to oppress those who make the least amount of money amongst us. So when you sit here and you say, what is this about? Why are we still doing this? Black on black. I feel like you're strawmanning a lot of what they're doing right now. Nobody says that violence in Chicago is okay. There are so many music artists, so many activists, so many people working on the scene right now there to try to fix those issues. But they run deep. And it isn't because they may be perceived as ineffective that they're not trying and that they don't care. I'll try to finish this because I don't want to not hear but his arguments right now so far have not been good.
It's like 0-0.
You see that on a consistent basis in the black so-called community, which ain't no black community anyway, it's black neighborhoods. You see that all the time in black neighborhoods consistently. Okay, so when I talk about black on black violence, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the everyday chaos, pandemonium.
Okay, just to be clear, there's no such thing as black on black crime, like a phenomenon where black folks specifically target black folks on the basis. No. Most people live around people that have of the same race of them. And so if you look at crime statistics and how they're reflected, white people commit majority of their crimes against other white people. Black people commit the most of their crimes against other black people. Same thing with Asian folks and Latinos and other minorities, right? Crime is a matter of proximity. So when you say these terms black on black, you perpetuate this idea that black people have some kind of innate hatred for other black folks. And that's why they commit these crimes. That's not true.
And destruction that we do to each other in our own communities. That's what I'm talking about. That's why it matters. So when anybody want to call me a or Uncle Tom or a sellout or a Sambo or something like that, what are you even thinking about? You're the coon. You're for not wanting to talk about the most important and pressing thing. You'll talk about some of these criminals that get murdered in the street, and sometimes rightfully so, by the police as some kind of injustice. But then when your granddaddy get killed, when your grandmama get killed, when your girlfriend, your wife, your sister, your mother, your brother.
Do you want to keep listening?
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're good. We're good. The thing that happened with this video is that this man saw Mr. Dorn died, and he got hurt, understandably, because it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing that happened, and he got hurt because of that. When you're hurt and when things happen like that, people are going to use a lot of different excuses to justify their pain and what happened. Well, you know, it's because of this and that. And I believe that's what happened, because there's not a lot of reasoning in what he's saying, really. But what I understand in what he's saying is pain. And I understand that what happened to Mr. Dorn is something that is atrocious and that it didn't have to take place. But now you're putting all those things together. It's a part, you know, there's different steps in grieving, grievance, you know what I mean? There's different steps of that, and that's one of the steps. You're trying to find someone, and someone that is the culprit for what you did, for what happened. Which it's understandable, but it's not correct and not right.
Right. A lot of people want us to cover it. And to be honest with you, we haven't covered anybody who died in the protests. We haven't covered protesters who died. We haven't covered rioters. We haven't covered police officers.
And I thought
nobody.
we wouldn't have.
No, but I wanted to do some. So someone DM'd me and they said, I think it's important for you guys to cover this. I don't think it's brought up, meaning David Dorn, to invalidate the whole movement, but as a counter to the violent and rioting method specifically. When such a large group of enraged people is encouraged to be destructive in order to garner attention, innocent people get hurt. Seems like an inevitability. That's what they said. I understand the rioting, and I'm not going to sit here and deny that it's effective. Of course it is. But when causes like David Dorn happen as a result, it brings up the question of at what cost. And I would agree with you. I don't think that most people, that's why you have so many protesters right now who catch people, anarchists, rioters, and they try to stop them. You can find videos online of so many people trying. And they catch these provocateurs and people who are trying to incite violence, okay? And we sit here and we agree with you that it is unacceptable. But you cannot look at the collateral damage of a movement and determine that the movement is therefore wrong. Do you imagine if they said that during the civil rights movement, right? Because you recognize that Martin Luther King was labeled a terrorist, right? He was labeled a wrongdoer, a criminal. People wanted him in jail. The FBI tried so many times, right? And eventually he was assassinated. Riots happened, then the Civil Rights Bill was enacted. You have to also recognize that a lot of people died during that. A lot of people died during those riots and those protests. Did that invalidate their cause? No. Look at how many people died in Iraq and Afghanistan. Does that invalidate their cause? We have to ask ourselves, are we using these arguments fairly? Are we? Or are we being biased with this? I could keep going on and on. Every conflict results in people unnecessarily dying, and no one's happy with it. No one's okay with it. No one. But it doesn't invalidate the movement. Because if we're saying that this movement is invalid because a small segment of it riots and loots and it's unacceptable, right? If we're saying that, then we have to invalidate every conflict in the world. And I don't think that's an argument that people want to stand on. So that's pretty much all I got. Anything else you want to add?
No. If you're hurt, I understand. I mean, it's really the hurt part. I understand what y'all just said. I'm not going to repeat what you said. It's just, I understand the hurt.
I agree.
Really understand the hurt. I get
agree.
that. But trying to find the person that is guilty at all costs is really not the way to do it.
I agree. All right. That's it for today's video. Thank you.